what are you gonna do with that? It's been just under 6 years since I graduated with my bachelor's degree, French major, English minor, and despite what people say, when you're a college student about liberal arts majors, oh, have fun with unemployment. That's not been my experience. I found my first full-time job within a year of graduating, and since then I've had a job consistently with just one short resume gap. So what I wanted to talk about in this video was career planning for liberal arts majors. Most of the time, you don't choose a liberal arts major because of the career prospects or the earning potential or anything like that. You choose it because you're passionate about it. If you say that you're going to be studying something like history, literature, philosophy, anthropology, anything of that nature, the question that you're going to get is, well, what are you going to do with that? We've all heard that question, right? I used to hate that question. I didn't really have an answer to it when I was a student, but I didn't like the implication of it. There are all kinds of studies that show that liberal arts majors are just as likely to be employed and to be making good money as some other majors like business, for instance. So basically in this video, what I wanted to talk about is if you are considering a liberal arts major, or if you are in a liberal arts major and you're approaching graduation and you're trying to figure out what kind of career to pursue, what your different options are. There are a couple of different paths that you can take. First of all, I think one of the questions that you typically get when you say that you're a liberal arts major, if it's not, what are you going to do with that? It's, so do you want to teach? Particularly for subject areas that are commonly taught at the K-12 level, like English or history or geography. Well, you must want to be an English or social studies teacher, right? That's the only option for those degrees, right? It's not, but that's kind of the assumption that people tend to make sometimes. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you've already considered teaching at the K-12 level and you're interested in thinking about other options. Or maybe your interest is in a subject that's not typically taught at that level, like philosophy or anthropology or something like that. So I'm not going to dwell too much on the option of teaching because I know that that is something that most people are already usually aware of. Another option, of course, is being a college professor. Now, I will say that from what I have heard, it's very difficult to get like a tenure track college professor job in the liberal arts and humanities fields. There are a lot of people who want those jobs and not as many jobs out there, particularly as some schools downsize their humanities and liberal arts departments. But getting a PhD in it and looking for a faculty job at a university is definitely an option and something to consider if you are that dedicated to the subject area that you know that you want to make it your life's work. Which brings me to option number 2, which is going to grad school. Now, I already talked about getting a PhD and trying to become a professor, but there are other options as well that require graduate degrees. If your field of choice is psychology, you probably already know that there is the option of going to med school and trying to become a psychiatrist, or getting like a degree in counseling and becoming a counselor. You can get into law school with various liberal arts majors, Master of Social Work to become a social worker, Masters in Library Science to become a librarian, museum studies, working like as a museum curator. There are a wide variety of master's degree programs that have more of a career focus and would be well suited to liberal arts majors because of more of the focus on soft skills and people rather than technology or business. I would recommend doing your research and maybe trying to work or volunteer in that field before committing to a master's degree. My personal experience is with librarianship. I recently got my master's in library science and I'm now working as a librarian. And I think that that was a good career choice for me, but I would strongly recommend, if you're at all interested in being a librarian, work in a library first. There are all kinds of jobs in libraries that don't require the master's degree. You can find out if you enjoy the work, if you enjoy the environment, and you can get some work experience because it is very hard to get a job as a librarian if you have a master's degree but no experience. I don't really know for the other fields that I brought up, like social work, counseling, or museums, if there's similar advice out there about those. I'm not really the best person to give that advice since I haven't worked in those fields, but I would recommend doing your research and finding out before you dive into a master's degree program. But let's say that you are ready to get to work right away. You're not going to do a master's degree or a PhD. You're not going to law school or med school or anything like that. And you don't particularly want to teach at the K through 12 level. What options do you have in that case? That brings us to option number 3, which is to find a job that is directly related to your degree. I'm not saying that it's like, you get an engineering degree and you go become an engineer. You get an elementary education degree and you go become an elementary school teacher. You get a nursing degree and you go become a nurse. It's not like that at all. The liberal arts degrees are broad. They focus on building a wide variety of skills and exposing you to different ideas. Often the subject matter is not something that gets applied to a specific career. Like, as much as I'm sure that some people would like to, there's not necessarily a career for you in analyzing ancient Roman mythology or, something like that. There might be, particularly if you want to go the academia route. But on a broader level, try and find out if there are any career paths that particularly like people who got your degree, basically. Like, for instance, being an editor if you were an English major, or like if you're a foreign language major, being a translator or an interpreter if your language skills are on the level that you're able to do that. History major may be working at a historical site or a museum that has historical artifacts or something like that. Political science, maybe being a political analyst or doing something having to do with political news. So even though the liberal arts degrees are not career focused, I would recommend finding out what careers are considered to be especially compatible with them and see if any of those appeal to you and if the skills that you are developing are in line for them. And if they're not and you'd like to maybe pursue that, then see what you need to be doing in the meantime. And then option number 4, there's teaching, there's grad school, there's other jobs besides teaching that have some relevance to your degree. And then there's the generic office job that wants a bachelor's degree, any bachelor's degree. There are a lot of those out there, a wide variety. There are skills that we develop as liberal arts majors, things like communication and research and critical thinking, that can be really valuable in a variety of career paths. And there's a lot that you can learn on the job. So if you're considering looking for a job that isn't picky about what degree that you got, that's definitely an option as well. I think the one thing that I would say about that is that if you're a liberal arts major, I'm guessing that personal fulfillment is more important to you than money or status. And so when you look at potential jobs that are, in the business world or that require just a bachelor's degree, any bachelor's degree, I'm not saying that none of those are good opportunities for you, but what I'm saying is think about whether you will be intellectually challenged and stimulated. Think about whether the job is in line with your priorities, your values, if it'll make use of the skills that led you to that liberal arts degree or that you developed there, even if not the specific subject matter. There's just such a wide variety of jobs out there that require just any bachelor's degree. You might not be equally fulfilled and happy in all of them. So I would recommend thinking about what it is that you're looking for and not just taking the first thing that comes up. And then finally, I wanted to say that there's a good chance, unless you do become a college professor, what you end up doing, while it may use those skills that you developed and it may be in some way linked to your interests, it won't be exactly what brought you to the liberal arts major in the first place. I'm sorry, but most people are not going to pay you to think about philosophy or to read classic literature or to study historical events. If you do end up with a job that pays you to do those things, then I am so happy for you. But usually there will be something of a disconnect. As liberal arts majors, we do tend to be very passionate about the things that we have chosen to study. So what I would recommend doing is don't let go of that. You'll have your job that you work at, and hopefully it will be something that you enjoy and that brings you fulfillment. But if there is something that brings you fulfillment that is not a part of your job, find time to do it on your own time. Develop your own interests. You never know where they'll lead you, and even if they don't lead you anywhere career-wise, you can still read in your chosen field, and you can make a blog, start a YouTube channel. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, I'd strongly encourage you to keep following it even after you graduate and just see where it takes you, even if that's just a hobby. Anyway, I hope that this video has helped you in understanding how to get from liberal arts major to career and what some of your options are. Because while there are a lot of options, it's more of a meandering road than just, point A to point B, like for some more career-focused majors. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, I'm proud of you for being willing to take the risk and put in the time and effort to study it, even without the guarantee of it having a direct career correlation. And I hope that you're able to turn it into something fulfilling that will make use of your skills and interests. Have you successfully turned a liberal arts major into a fulfilling career? If so, feel free to leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your story.